Okay, in this screencast, this is Paul again. I'm going to show you how to open up your first R script. I'm going to show you how to set your R script so that every time you click on an R script to open it, it will automatically open it in RStudio. And then I'm going to orient you to the RStudio environment a little bit so that you can navigate your way around. So by the time this is posted, you should have received an R script attached to an email from me. This is an R script that you will use to do your introduction to the central limit theorem exercise that is due on Wednesday. So when you get this attachment, you should drag it out of your email and drag it into a folder. You can make a folder for whatever you want just by generally right-clicking on your desktop, getting a new folder. You can name that folder anything that you want by just clicking on the folder name and naming that folder. And so I've created a folder called RScreencast. I can then go to wherever my script file is, which in your case is in your email. In my case, it's in my Biology 133 2020 materials. And you can just drag that right into that folder. I generally like to keep all of my R materials in a particular space so that I don't have to keep figuring out what my working directory is. I'll always know what my working directory is because I have a habit of putting my R things in a single space. So once you have your script onto your computer's hard drive, which your desktop is just one part of your computer's hard drive, what you can do in the Mac OS, and it's a very similar process, it actually just has one fewer step in the Windows environment, and this is shown you in your homework assignment as well, is right-click on the card draw R script and go to Get Info. When you click on Get Info, it will then give you a panel that you can drag around and move. And in this panel, one of the little drop-down menus down here is called Open With. And when you get to Open With, you can click this drop-down, and it will give you, do you want to open it in R? Do you want to open it in Excel, Microsoft Word, Notes, etc., etc.? You don't want to open it in R. You want to open it in RStudio. And then right below that, there's a little tab here that you can click that says Change All. Are you sure you want to change all similar documents to open with the application RStudio? Yes, I do. So what I've basically just told my computer is anytime that I open an R script, just automatically open it in RStudio. So I don't have to, click on it, go to Open With, and tell it to open it with RStudio. So now that I've done that, when I double-click on the R script, it should just automatically open this R script in RStudio. RStudio would like to access files in your desktop folder. That's fine, because that's where this is. And so it's opening RStudio. And when you open RStudio, you're going to find 4 different panes. There is an upper left, an upper right, a lower left, and a lower right pane, and you can resize these panes however you want. The upper left one is the code editing window, so this is where you write your code. When you execute your code, it will appear executed down here in the console screen, the console pane. Your environment history and connections window basically keeps track of the things that you've done in the past, and that's sometimes useful when you need to go back and look at something or remind yourself of something that you've done. And then this area down here is where you can view any plots you've made, any files that you have used. You can see carddraw.r is in there, any packages that you have. Now, because you've just installed R, you don't have any packages. And so common packages that you will need, for example, is a package called ggplot2, which is a package that you will need right now. You can see that it's already on my version because I have been using R for years. And so if you don't have it, though, you can click the install button here. And when you click the install button, if you need ggplot2, you can just type that in there. It will give you ggplot2, and then you can install it. And it's installing, so you can see down here in the console, it's telling you what it's doing. You could have also typed install packages ggplot2, and it would do the same thing, but it's just as easy to find it over here. Now it has installed it. In my case, it installed it and overwrote the old package that was already in there. So I've just basically updated that package. But what you'll see is that that package is still not activated in my R environment here. So I can activate it by clicking on it if I want, and you'll see that once again, ggplot is loaded. It's just giving me a little warning that says it was built under an earlier version of R, because let's see, what version of R am I using? I'm using 3.6.1. Oh, this is 3.6.2. So they've updated ggplot since more recently than I've downloaded R to my computer. So I guess my R is a little bit out of date. So you can also do this by just typing in library ggplot2, and it will do the same thing. So for example, I can unactivate, I can detach the plot, and I can just type in library ggplot2, and it will go through the same process. And now you see that it's been turned back on in my packages area over here. So this is the script for doing the central limit theorem using cards. So in the homework assignment, you will be asked to flip some cards on your own, but then to save you the hassle of spending an incredible amount of time flipping cards, we very quickly go to a computer to get the computer to simulate flipping cards. So any line that you see that has the pound sign in it, that's a comment line. If you activate that line, and we run lines of code using command return in the Mac environment, or control enter if you're in the Windows environment. If we do command return in this script, you see that it skips all of the comment code, all the comment lines, and just basically runs library ggplot2, which it doesn't give you a warning because ggplot2 has already been loaded. So when we simulate drawing cards from a deck of cards, the first thing that we have to do is we have to tell R what a deck of cards includes, and a deck of cards includes the numbers 1 through 13 corresponding to ace through king. It's all the possible outcomes of drawing a card where the ace is 1, the jack, queen, and king are 11, 12, and 13 respectively. So when we run that line of code, it basically tells us that we did what we did. It says that I called this thing card, and it is this line of numbers, and in case I'm unsure of that, I can actually ask it what card is, and it will give me the same answer. I haven't yet finished editing this file yet, so I need to make some changes. But this next section, you'll see, has a big long line of things, and I can actually make this a little more readable by doing this. Whenever you have commas, it just tells you, the comma just tells you you're in the middle of something, go to the next line and keep running things. You can resize the window so that you can see things, and so this is us building a function. And so whenever I build a function, I want you to activate that function. You want to run the lines between the hashtags all together. So what you generally want to do is just highlight the whole thing and run that all at once. And you see that it hasn't done anything except show you the thing that you just ran, but it gives you the prompt back, this little greater than sign. And your cursor is sitting there flashing. It's basically saying, okay, I did that. What do you want me to do next? And so the next thing that I want you to do is I want you to run that function. And so all this function has done is it's basically said, go to a deck of cards and draw out 2 cards each 10 different times. So on this time we drew a jack and a 6. This time we drew a 5 and a jack, a 3 and a queen, a 10 and a king, an 8 and a 9, a 5 and a 7, a 6 and a 9, a 1 and a 9, a 3 and a 10, and a 10 and an 8. So once again, you'll see that there are things that are in that line, basically that have a pound sign in front of them. And once again, that's just a comment that I'm leaving there to tell you what you're doing. And so in this function, you've put the results of the function in an object called result, so that when you come down here and type result, it should return to you the same thing that you just got when you ran the function. And so there's when you ran the function, here's when you typed in result to get the result, and you see that those two things are exactly the same. So now that you've stored it in result, we can change that result to a data frame, and then we can rename the 2 columns, draw 1 and draw 2. And when we do result again, you'll see that now rather than that weird 1 and 2 above it, it says draw 1 and draw 2 of these 2 draws. Now we can basically take an average of those, basically adding draw 1 to draw 2 and divided by 2, and put that in a new column called average, AVE. And when we do that, when we get the result now the result has a 3rd column, which is the average, and then we can take the average of all of those 2 card draws and get the grand mean of all of that, which is 7.8, which is close to, although not exactly the same as, the population mean of the population that you are in theory drawing from, which is a deck of cards. And then histo is just a simple way of making a histogram, and the graph that you make appears over here once again in your plots area. And you can see that that thing doesn't start to look like a very normal curve because you have only 2 draws each, and you only have 10 trials total. And so what the rest of this R script will do is it will help you to draw bigger and bigger data sets of 2 cards each. Then it will draw really big data sets of 2 cards each, 10 cards each, 20 cards each, and 30 cards each. And it will do all of these calculations for you as you go. My advice to you is to run it a line at a time and think about what it's doing for you. Read the comment lines, because the comment lines are there to guide you through what the script is trying to get across to you, which is to show you how the central limit theorem becomes important to doing statistics. And also the text that is written in your homework assignment will hopefully do the same. When you are finished, you can take any of these figures that you create, you can export them, you can save them as a PDF, you can tell it to save them as portrait or landscape, you can tell it what size you want to make the plot, you can give the plot a name, and when you do this, it will output the plot to your file. You can view the plot after saving, but it will output the plot to the folder where you're currently working. So I'm working in the R Screencast folder on my desktop. So that is also where it will put the plots. So paying attention to what directory you're working out of and where R is sending output is going to be important, because there's no bigger bummer than doing a bunch of work in R. It puts it in a directory that you weren't expecting it to put it into, and then you can't go and find that work when you want to use it. So I'll save that, and it will show me what the plot looks like. It looks like the world's lamest histogram, but I also can go at any time in the future and go to the R Screencast folder on my desktop, and I can find that histogram. If you've made any changes to the R script as you've gone, you'll want to save those changes, assuming that they worked, before you leave, and then you can just quit RStudio when you're finished with whatever RStudio session you're working on. This is asking if you want to save all of this workspace. That ends up taking up a lot of space on your computer. I generally try not to do that, I generally try and harvest the things from the work that I'm doing, and then I just don't save that work. But I always make sure to have saved the altered R script before I get to this page. And then you're back to the beginning. So that's how you work R. If you have any difficulties doing this, as always, drop me an email and we can set up a Zoom meeting, and I can actually get you to share your screen with me. And almost always I can help you troubleshoot what it is that you're doing in R that's or not doing in R that is not making your script run adequately. So good luck with that, and let me know if you have any problems.